Okay, awesome. Hey everyone, my name is Josh. I'm the founder and CEO of Flash Food. I kind of want to start off just by asking a couple questions. So first of all, who are the students in here? This group? Okay. And who else likes food? Right. So this whole, I love that you guys are doing the contest on food insecurity. I like to simplify things. And to simplify what you guys are trying to solve is people that are hungry that can't eat. And it's for decisions like, do I keep my heat on in my apartment when I have 2 young kids? Or could be anything. But that's the core of what you guys are trying to solve in this contest. And I think that it's awesome that you guys are attacking this. To give you an idea, before I dive into it, my career started off on Bay Street in this building and in the BMO building. I was a banker, and then I went to consulting and back to finance. And my sister gave me a call after one of her shifts. She was at a catering event, and she's a chef. And it was late at night. She's like, I just threw out $4,000 worth of food. So originally I started laughing, and I'm like, Paula, you idiot, why would you do that? She's like, no, this sucks. Like, this is a horrible feeling. I'm walking home, and I'm walking by people that are on the side of the street, and they can't afford food. Like, this sucks. So the next few days, her and I started talking about creating a secondary market for chefs to order directly from farmers. And I stumbled across a National Geographic article that really changed my life. Food waste is a global epidemic. 30 to 40% of all food produced, whether it's in the southern hemisphere poorest countries in the world or the northern hemisphere richest countries in the world, is discarded, doesn't get to the plate. In Canada alone, we're throwing out $31 billion worth of food every year. And this is the statistic that really changed my life. And I read a lot, and it took me a long time to read this. When food gets thrown out, it usually ends up in a landfill, gets covered by other garbage, and when it rots, it doesn't have oxygen. And what that does is it produces methane gas. So the statistic is if international food waste were a country, it'd be the 3rd leading cause of greenhouse gas emissions behind the US and China. And when I read that, I was like, okay, like somebody has to do something about this, and there's nothing being done about it. And then started the company, founded it last March or April, basically out of my apartment, quit my job, hired a development team in Serbia at first that did the first mock-ups of the app, and then we hired a team in China to build the first version of the app. So you're probably wondering what we actually do, and I'll get to that. Just in grocery alone in North America last year, between Canada and the US, there's $30 billion worth of food thrown out. This is perfectly good food. Like, this isn't garbage food. To give you an idea, I live downtown Toronto, so our office is in Liberty Village, and there's one grocery store in Liberty Village. For those of you who don't know what Liberty Village is in Toronto, it's basically a confined neighborhood with like gyms, a grocery store, a whole bunch of restaurants, 1 lane in, 1 lane out. You can live in just this area and work in just this area. So there's a grocery store there's a Metro in Liberty Village, and they're throwing out boneless, skinless chicken breast 3 days before the best before date. The average grocery stores spent throwing out anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 worth of food on a daily basis. And this has anywhere from 4 days to sometimes 7 days of shelf life. So this isn't bad food. Like, this stuff is perfectly good. Now, the next thing you're asking is, well, why don't they donate it all? Logistics. Who picks it up? Who drops it off? Who pays the price? Who guarantees the safety? So then what I did was talk to a whole bunch of grocery store managers, directors of operations. I found out those numbers. And then I talked to some executives. I talked to executives at every big grocery company in Canada. And one of them told me, well, we donate all of our food to the food bank, but we go show up a week later, and it's just sitting and rotting on their shelves. And they're like, we're going to keep paying to get this food there, and nobody's going to come take advantage of it. So what you guys are trying to solve is such a hard problem. Data will play a huge piece in it, but it's a really, really hard problem. And the one thing that I'll tell you is whatever you decide to dig into, think about the people issues around it. So for us, what we've done is we built a profitable, simple solution for surplus food. So grocery stores, instead of throwing out food every day, so early in the morning, they go collect all this food, they bring it to the back of the store, they scan it out, they throw it in the garbage. Instead of doing that, we said, why don't you take it, put it in a fridge in the store, take an iPad, take a picture of the food, mark the price down at least 50%, send a notification out to our users. Our users see the deal through their phone, pay through their phone, and they go to the store anytime that day, and they get their order in the flash food fridge. So we basically took the discount food rack, made it look sexy, and we put it on your cell phone. Now, what are the people problems around that? Because the business makes sense. It sounds easy. Okay, this is a good idea. Getting in front of grocery executives in Canada, that was almost impossible to do. Convincing grocers to let you integrate into their store, that was really hard to do. Having a workaround and being able to handle the money. So as you guys go through trying to solve these problems, you're going to come up with a lot of great ideas, but think through the people issues about how you can actually execute this, because that's going to be the difference. I mean, like 20 grand's cool, but whether you win the competition or not, that's going to be the difference if you're actually creating a solution that could solve some of these problems. And to give you guys a leg up on other people that are not here that are going to compete with you, in Africa. Like if you look outside in Toronto, we've got phone lines everywhere. That was like hard phone lines were our main means of communication for so long. In Africa, they surpassed that infrastructure. So the main means of communication in Africa is SMS text messaging. There's no reason why farmers can't send out some sort of notification to people in nearby villages saying, we have this surplus food, come pick it up. That's an easy win. And we hope to get there at some point, but like that's one solution. What I think through mainly when it comes to food insecurity is how to deal with the surplus food that we have and then how to get it to the people that need it. So this is our business, and to give you an idea, we've been live since January. We launched with Farm Boy in London, Ontario, and we're now in 3 Farm Boys in London, Ontario. We're in 3 Longo's locations in Toronto, and we're actively speaking to more grocers. But when it comes to data analytics, and some of that data was fantastic, but when it comes to data analytics, usually our users are signing in through Facebook or Google, so we've got an idea of their demographic. And when people buy deals, we know who's buying the food, what they're buying, how far they're traveling to pick it up. But then in the grocery store, how it works is you walk to the fridge, let's say you get a chicken breast. You walk to the fridge, open the fridge, there's 5 chicken breasts there, grab whichever one you want. When you go through the checkout aisle, there's flash food designated checkout aisles, the cashier has an iPad, and they scan through, so you walk up to it, you say, I'm Josh, I bought this chicken breast. They scan the chicken breast, it shows up in the POS system as flash food $0. To give you an idea about the people issues, the technology issues as well, there was no way we were going to be able to integrate into their POS system. And that's something that we found out really early. So we had to work around by using a mobile system. So when it scans through, it shows up as flash food $0. And then whatever else I buy while I'm there scans through as well. And when the transaction's done, Longo's or Farm Boy now knows you came in through flash food, but you also spent money on flowers or milk or whatever else you're additionally buying in store. So our average customer is spending about $8 through flash food. And when they get into the store, they're spending anywhere from $14 to $16 on full price food while they're in store. Another part of the analytics and the data that was relevant for us specifically was what happens on the other end. So these grocers are taking food, money on the shelves, they're throwing it in the garbage, and then they're paying waste management companies to come pick it up and dispose of it, and it's ruining the world. So trying to tie back that data and the finances there into why this is a good reason for them to be utilizing us. So those are just like a whole bunch of things that I could spit out that we had to learn pretty quickly, and then think through the people issues on those. The next thing I'm going to talk about that I don't really know as much about is sustainable sourcing. And I'm going to speak specific to one of our partners. So Farm Boy has a lot less waste than a lot of other grocery stores. And the reason why they do is because they source locally to where their locations are. So they started, for those of you who aren't aware, Farm Boy is incredible. They're like a more cozy Whole Foods. They started in Ottawa and they've scaled around the GTA, and they're starting to make their move into the GTA. But Farm Boy sources all their product from local farmers close to their stores. And what that does is it reduces a whole bunch of transportation costs. It reduces a lot of the waste associated with going to collect food, bringing it to the store and selling. And then in addition to that, it's all fair trade product and not mass produced. So I guess on that end for sustainable sourcing, there's a whole bunch of information on these grocers' websites and on other companies' websites on how they collect food. There's different categories around fair trade and organic. It's pretty strictly regulated in North America, but just like anything else that's regulated in food, there's a whole bunch of ways around it. And you guys can dig into this if you want. what's also fascinating, so since January of this year, when it comes back to data analytics, we've diverted now. So for every food item that we sell, we consider it a meal. And we've diverted just over 9,000 meals, which is the equivalent greenhouse gas emission. We've calculated that and tied that into driving a car. So we took the average weight of a meal. We found out what that average weight of food waste would compose at in a landfill. And then we tied that back to kilometers driven in a car of greenhouse gas emission. So that 9,000 meals is the equivalent of just over 10,000 kilometers driven in a car. And to give you an idea on the financial savings, we're saving our users, if you took our top customer, who's a young couple with, they've got 5 kids, and you annualize their savings, they'd have an additional $5,000 in the bank at the end of the year. So I'm not telling you this to talk about how great we are. I'm telling you this because we're an app. Like, it's an app. It's a good idea and it's an app. But you have to go so much deeper into the people issues, into how you're going to solve those people issues, into how you're going to track all of the things that you're going to be able to use against other people that tell you that this isn't a good idea and that you can't execute it, because that's going to be a huge hurdle that you guys are going to come across too. It's different to have the theory behind what you want to build, but when you actually want to execute it, you're going to have people that have been in these industries for so long that are just going to completely blow you off. When it comes to the most climate damaging food that gets produced, cows, beef is the biggest. And then when it comes to methane production, between their farts and their burps, they're producing a lot of methane gas. So that's why you're seeing a big trend line of going to plant-based diets. So the next thing that I want to talk about specifically in technology and the demographic that you guys are, like, you guys are so lucky. We are so lucky right now in comparison to generations that came before us, because it is so easy now financially to dig into tech, to launch something, to add services onto your solution. It's easier than it's ever been. But if you think about how technology can innovate, Amazon, Chef's Plate, all these companies that are doing made-to-order food tech companies that are delivering meals right to your door, they're all experiencing waste. And they're all experiencing waste in areas where people are hungry. And when we talk about food insecurity, a lot of people talk about food insecurity. And the first thing that came to mind with me when I started was like the pictures that you see across any of these campaigns where it's either a young kid who's hungry or whatever it is, a family that hasn't eaten. And those are all true, and it sucks. But when I think about food insecurity, I think about the accountant that graduates from Queens that is making $35,000 a year in downtown Toronto as their first job, and they've got $45K in debt. Like, that's the working poor demographic. Like, they're equally as food insecure, maybe not equally, but they're also food insecure in comparison to other people that have young families that are in rural areas in the country. Another area that would be interesting for you guys to focus in is, and you saw the slide a while ago, but the highest amount of food insecurity happens in Nunavut and northern Canada. And that's also where the highest amount of food waste is occurring in Canada. And so a challenge there is retailers and restaurants, specifically up there, if they start to reduce, one, food costs more because you have to move it further. So if you can find a cheaper way to get food there. But the other thing is they can't reduce their prices because they only have a set demographic of people that are going to be shopping in those areas. So they're going to be cannibalizing their own business. So a solution for that area would be hydroponic farming. And I don't know if you guys have looked much into that, but if you could find a way to essentially fund hydroponic farming for people and families that are dealing with food insecurity, I'm sure government would have money to put aside for something like that. But that'd be a great idea. And then so the reason why there's all these blackberries here is we went to pitch to one of the big grocers, and it got to the executive level. It was CEO down, and we ended up talking to a room of like 12 different people. And when you think about the people issues, and specifically for the females in the class, if you guys are going to deal in grocery, and if your solution's in grocery, to give you a demographic of the room, it was me, my CTO, and I think 11 white men in the room. And that's another people issue that you got to deal with. So luckily I'm a white male, but if I were marginalized or if I were a woman, it would have been way harder for me to have that pitch. But as we were going through the pitch, I was surveying the room, and these are all people that have been in the industry forever, that grocery is the slowest to move for innovation. And at one point, I was surveying the room, and at one point towards the end, there was questions that were being asked, and so I'm fielding questions, and one of the guys puts up his hand. He's like, "Do you have a BlackBerry app for this?" I'm like, no, I don't have a. It's not 2007. I don't have a BlackBerry app for this. Of course not. But 9 of the 12 grocery execs in the room had BlackBerries. And we didn't end up getting this grocer. But again, there's, yeah, of course, right? But there's ongoing talks, and I guess I wanted to also open it up just for questions for specific things that you guys want to solve, but I want to tail it back to tell one more story too. So we were sitting at the table, and the team that we have at Flash Food is stacked. So we've raised a little bit of venture funding. We've won a few competitions in the tech space in Toronto and in Canada, and we've gotten notoriety now and been recognized. And the team that we have is incredible. So nobody was a direct graduate. People had experience. So we had an investment banker who was in the industry for 5 years who left because his life was miserable. We had a CTO who had started and sold a successful digital agency who was in his mid-30s, who is now, he was doing tech consulting. We have a marketing lead who has a master's degree that was in New York as running, not running, but a part of a growth marketer for a New York startup that she did a really good job with. We've got an operations person who was a former consultant that was at the senior manager level. And everybody left their roles to come join because of what we're doing. We were sitting at the table, and we were in Liberty Village, and we're getting pretty heated about taxes. Like, we got to get into these grocers. We have to have everything solved. How the heck are we going to decide how taxes plays out per item? Is it going to be per category? How are we going to give that back to them? And it was getting heated. People were having discussions. We had a lot of smart people in the room. And I stopped everybody and I said, guys, hold on. Like, take a step back. There's a Metro down the road, 500 meters from us, that's throwing out $6,000 worth of food today. Perfectly good food, $6,000 worth. And there's a couple on the other side of Dufferin going to bed starving because they had to feed their kids and they decided to keep the heat on in the winter. Like, that's the gap that you guys are trying to bridge, specifically in Canada. That's it. Like, that's how real and that's how personal this gets. So if you think about times, and I was originally going to come up and to try and get the room lively, I was going to ask, like, who's been hungry here before, and everybody would obviously put their hand up and then ask you your favorite meal. But think about when you've been starving and you're going to order your favorite meal, and you do like an Uber Eats or something and it's coming and you just keep looking at your phone waiting for it to show up. And that feeling of like desperate need for food, I get it like twice a day where I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to eat. Think about having that all the time and having no way of acquiring that food. Or the decision to acquiring that food is like as personal as, do I not pay rent this month and I've got to get my landlord who's going to be on my back tomorrow maybe kicking me out, or have I not had a decent meal in 2 weeks and I want to eat? Like, these are the challenges that are happening in our city and in multiple cities in Ontario, in first world countries, and then you guys could take that model, take that thought process, and I mean, like, look what's happening in Puerto Rico right now. People are just so food scarce. This is a huge issue, and you guys should feel a lot of pride and take this very serious that you're working on this, because I could tell you, like, for our team, speaking for our team, since we've been on this journey, we've gotten emails from people like asking when we're going to open up in new stores. We've got thank you emails from a whole bunch of people. The staff loves it. But the big win is just that exact, like that feeling of people are starving and they don't have access to food. And it's a huge, huge, huge problem. So I'm going to finish off with a meme about Jeff Bezos, and then open up to you guys for questions. And I want to actually hear questions around ideas or what we went through, what our hardest part was. I'm here, I got a couple minutes, I have 10 minutes, I was way quicker than I should have been. But yeah, if you guys have anything, feel free, and if not, I'm gonna jump off the stage. Awesome, thanks. Yep. Oh, I thought I was done. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, okay, there's a funny story behind this. So I went to Farm Boy, and Farm Boy is in London, Ontario, and I hadn't been in a while. So I took a drive out 2 hours from Toronto, and I'm in the store, and There's a senior lady who's walking around the back of the store, and she's looking for goat milk. So she grabs goat milk, and then she starts talking to one of the farm boy employees, and she's talking about the price to him. And he says, "Have you heard about flash food?" She's like, "No, what's that?" He walked her over to the fridge, told her that this isn't our company, this is a company that we've partnered with, and what they do is we reduce prices so we don't throw out food, and we make it more usable for our users to buy food at a discount. He explained the whole thing to her, and I'm standing right there, like just trying to be a normal shopper, like, oh my gosh. And he ended up downloading the app for her on her phone, putting her payment information in, and walking her through the whole checkout process. So like that was a one-off that I've seen, but it's anywhere from, it's people that are hungry that have cell phones, but we're seeing mainly 25 to 45 is the highest demographic, and it's usually the younger demographic, students, because some of the stuff is like amazing. In London, you can get pulled pork, like cooked pulled pork for like $2, and it's a great sandwich. But yeah, so the demographic is like 25 to 45, and our typical customers are going into the store and spending more money while they're in the store, obviously, because who goes to the grocery store for one thing? I don't think I ever have. Is there another question? Yeah.
How do you make money?
Okay, so that's a really good question too, because yeah, great idea, cool. If you want to do anything with like food security and you want to try and make a solution to this, you have to find a way to become a sustainable business or have a funding source that you can rely on forever. And good luck trying to find that. But we take a percentage of the transaction value. And we've got multiple streams that we can go into. So we're getting all the data collection from the products that are being purchased. So we can pretty quickly create like basically a Facebook advertising type platform to directly to the consumers and the users. But right now we're taking a percentage of the transaction value.
And what's the market size in Canada?
It's huge. Like there's the slide before, in Canada in grocery alone, we're throwing out $3 billion worth of food. In the US, it's like 26. The opportunity from a financial perspective is huge, but even more importantly, the amount of food that's getting thrown out is like just messed up. Like we've got so many people that are hungry, and there's so much food getting thrown out. Like it's up to you guys to find a solution. Like I've done all I could so far, so we need your help. It's up to you guys to find different ways to bridge that gap, because there's just so much there and so many people that are hungry. But yeah, the market opportunity is massive. And for us, the challenge is how do you scale within grocers? And that's really hard because of the BlackBerry slide. In the back.
Hey, so great idea. Amazing. But how does this help individuals without a cell phone?
Yeah, you want to solve for, and that's a good question, you want to solve for as many variables as you can, and right now we're not a web platform, and we can't solve for people without a cell phone. Even when we do become a web platform, how do you solve for people that don't have access to Wi-Fi or data? I don't know. And if you had a solution for that, it'd be good to know it. But also at the same time as all the stuff that's happening with food waste, cell phones are becoming more affordable than ever. Not the higher end, but like an iPhone 4 or an iPhone 5 or an iPhone 6. There's just a ton of these phones being sent to landfills because there's no buyers for them. So it's pretty easy now to find a cell phone. And it's also pretty easy to get Wi-Fi. Just walk into a Tim Hortons or a Starbucks. So that was a conscious decision that I made pretty early on. It's like, yeah, we can't solve for everybody, but we can get a bigger demographic. So that's the first answer. And then the second answer is, right now, people that are hungry, and I've never had to do this. I've been blessed that I've never had to go to a food bank. But from what I hear from people, you go to a food bank, your head is down, your hand is out, you're given whatever they can give you. What we can build into the platform that we plan to build when we have enough scalability in grocers is any of us buy food and we could donate $1 or $2 that goes directly into the account as credits of somebody who's identified themselves as food insecure, and they can now shop through Flash Food just like anybody else can with the credits in their account. And we don't take anything off the top, as a company. This is a direct donation to somebody who can go to the store and pick whatever food they want that's available on the platform. And so at some point, and I thought about this too, at some point, how do you deal with people that don't have cell phones? Well, you create a cell phone recycling platform. anything about a BlackBerry can come in and you can just filter it out to the people that associate with food insecurity. So there's easy ways to solve the problem. The hard things are like building out the infrastructure, but that's a good question. Yep.
So in the future, have you ever considered working with restaurants?
Yeah, we've talked about it, but restaurants are a whole different beast. And if, like right now, we're in Farm Boy and we're in Longo's, and we're in 3 locations in both, and we're doing a good job. So we have a pretty clear sight line to all 31 grocery stores in Longo's across the GTA, and all 26 Farm Boys across outside of the GTA in Ontario. It's just a quicker means to scale, and then it's pretty easy to turn the restaurants on around the grocery stores. But yeah, that's in our plans for the future. But like they're just 2 completely separate businesses, so you have to focus on what you're doing first. And that's the other thing too. If you have an idea, you have good data behind it, and it's like worthwhile, stay focused on it because it's so easy to get distracted and pulled in other directions. Stay focused on the solution and keep getting to the solution. Awesome. Thanks, guys.